G'day guys, Mac with the Outer Circle. In this episode of Getting Started in the Horus Heresy, we're going to be looking at the special characters and prime arc of the Dark Angels Legion. What we want to do here is talk about them in the scope of the game as a whole, and that means we have to compare them to regular characters, for example, such as Legion Praetors. And are the special characters, for the points you pay for them, worth it? Most of the time they are not. And you have to take this into consideration because, well, the models are lovely and all, at least where they're available, Causeway and when, but you're spending a lot of money on them. So even if you use them as something else, like you buy, I don't know, Marduk Cedras, for example, you buy his actual model and you just say, it counts as a Praetor in Terminator, that's fine. But do remember, you're paying an awful lot of money for it from Games Workshop, / Forge World, so you really want to be certain in what you're actually purchasing. Now, with that in mind, let's start with the Legacies PDF characters. So we'll start with Holguin first, and then we'll move to Ferris Breadwas. So Holguin is the Master of Deathwing. He is relatively good for the points. If you were to kit out a regular Cataphracti Praetor, it's like 10 to 15 more points, basically, to get this guy. And you're coming with some pretty decent built-in war gear and Feel No Pain 5+. There's a bit of a weird thing here in that he's only Strength 6 AP 2 on his sword, which, yeah, okay, sounds really good on the surface, but it doesn't provide enough attacks with enough strength to actually kill a lot of things in this game. He does have rad grenades, which means in round 1 he can do it. But he is very susceptible. If he's locked into a challenge or fighting Terminators long term, it's only going to take that one Strength 8 hit getting through to really punish the guy. So you need to keep that in the back of your mind. Now, when it comes to regular hordes like Space Marines in Power Armor, he will cut through them like a hot knife through butter. But so he should. He is, a very expensive character. So having Feel No Pain built in, all your regular sort of Praetor stat line, and Reaping Blow of 2, which means if he's in base contact with multiple enemy models, he gets an additional 2 attacks. All of that is very good. He's stubborn, and he's going to be getting the hit bonus because he's Deathwing, something to keep in mind as well. And he'll get sword bonus because he's Dark Angels. Another little weird thing about him, of course, is that he has the Deathbringer's Aegis. Now, the Deathbringer's Aegis is 2+ armor save, 4+ invul, and he has the heavy special rule. So all these things, it seems like Cataphracti armor. But actually it's been brought up to me that, well, technically it doesn't say so, and the way the rules are written, you don't infer, you have to specifically have it mentioned. So all we know is in Terminator armor, and he is heavy, and he has the stats of Cataphracti, but he can do things that Cataphracti armor normally prohibits, such as Sleeping Advance. So keep that in the back of your mind if you use him. He is an expensive HQ choice, not overly expensive for what you get though, and I do like him, but characters are probably very dangerous to him. Anything that can resist his rad grenades is also going to cause a lot of problems for him. So next one along, we get Ferris Breadwas. Now, in his case, he can kill characters in close combat. He has a lot of attacks, strong weapon. Rad grenades, very handy little thing to have. The more I think about it though, I can't pick his weapons. So he has 3 different weapons, a Shard Bolt pistol, a Neural Shredder carbine, and an Adamantic Pulse pistol. And I keep trying to figure out an order to use these things in. And I pause on them quite a bit because, to me, the Adamantic Pulse pistol is the one to go with. Some people think the Shard Bolt pistol is best, and some think the Neural Shredder is best. He has 3 guns to pick from, and that's the 3 I'm talking about. The Neural Shredder, 18 inches, Salt 2, AP 2 poisoned, ignores cover and pinning. Sounds pretty good on the surface. I mean, AP 2, but that poison, there's a lot of stuff that can resist poisoned. And I don't think that those 2 extra shots at that kind of a shortish range is really that great. I think the Shard Bolt Pistol falls into a similar category. Yep, it's going to do double wounds against demons and psychers, but it doesn't really have the hitting power to really make it guarantee that it's going to do that. And a lot of the time with these shooting weapons, this is a very, very expensive character who's running around with this giant mastercrafted axe, okay? You want to get him stuck into close combat. And if you're using the pistol or the shredder carbine, you risk killing the enemy and failing the charge because you make the distance greater. It's something to keep in the back of your mind. They've got drawbacks to using them, even if they do stack up theoretically better than, say, bolt guns, bolt pistols, plasma pistols. The automatic pulse pistol, I therefore will generally lean towards. It's strength 8, AP2, lance, and shock pulse. Really, really, really good at dealing with vehicles. And yeah, okay, short range, it's only a 6-inch weapon, like an Inferno pistol. But the more I think about it, the better it seems. Because, yeah, he has melter bombs, he can blow up tanks, but the ability to shut down a super heavy tank, which are unlikely to blow up with a single melter bomb, that's pretty good. Also, it's a high enough strength, hard enough hitting, that it can instant kill some vehicles that are rather difficult to deal with. And it's giving you a bit more variety and versatility, because anything that the Neural Shredder Carbine or the Shard Bolt Pistol can deal with, he can deal with already with his sword. Not so with the Automatic Pulse Pistol. I would much rather shoot that thing into a Fell Blade and make the whole thing shut down thanks to Shock Pulse return, and then charge in. I think that's a better use of it. Of course, for his axe, Mastercrafted AP2 axe, and you've got basically 2 modes, either 2-handed swing or a 1-handed swing. The 2-handed one is going to give you +3 strength and unwieldy. The 1-handed one is only user strength, but you get Reaping Blow 3, so really good for hordes. The strength 7 one, yeah, okay, it's not going to instant kill Marines, but he does have rad grenades, but he falls into the same trap as Holgwyn does. He's just got a little bit more strength to him. Which means that people who have, for example, battle hardened, yeah, you're not cutting them down. Yeah, he's definitely more tanky than Holgwyn because he does have the Fire Wing. So the Fire Wing, he's got resistances against like Flamer and Plasma and Rad weapons built in, and he has a 2+ invulnerable save against Melter and Crawling Fire attacks. Poison attacks will also only affect him on a 6+. He himself is battle hardened, so he's actually one of the few characters that can tank a strength 8 or 9 hit. However, rad grenades will mess with that significantly because all of a sudden he'll only be able to tank up to strength 7, and once more strength 8 becomes very deadly to him. So if you do use him, don't fall into the trap of thinking that you can just wade into combat and have nothing to worry about, because a smart player will have many ways of dealing with Ferris Breadwas. Now we'll get to the characters that are actually in the Legiones Astartes book. And we'll start with Marduk Cedras. So he's a Dreadwing character, and he's not too bad. Plasma Burner, 3 Phosphex bombs. He's got all your sort of Praetor stat line, 4 attacks, Web 6, Leadership 10, 2+4+ save. Horrible sword on his miniature. Oh, did I say that? Now, Strength 5, AP2, unwieldy 2-hand weapon. Invulnerable saves that are taken against it are reduced by -1 to a minimum of 6+. So that will come in handy in some situations, but anyone with a 3+ invulnerable save is still going to feel pretty comfortable against it. It is going to help out though, maybe with regular like Tartarus Terminators or Breaching Marines, for example. He is going to get the +1 to hit because of the sword, so that's not too bad. And his Ancient of War special rule is okay. So it's Dark Angels that deploy within 6 inches of him at the start of the battle will get preferred enemy against one faction that is represented in the enemy army. It's very specific here. If he starts in reserves though, then the rule actually doesn't come into play because he's not on the table, therefore he can't actually trigger it. It's something weird. Yeah, I don't mind him too much as a character, but I think he's an instance where he's probably the worst of the 4 characters in my mind. Especially because, weapons and gear he's armed with, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. He's a cataphractii praetor, for all intents and purposes, with a funky-looking, hokey sword. I think Inner Circle Knights Cenobium-based characters, so Tyrannic Greatsword type things, those are better, in my opinion. Or a Paragon Blade, just a flat-out Paragon Blade. Alright, now we're getting into the juicy stuff. Causewayne. So Causewayne is one of my favourite characters, and probably one of the players' favourite characters, because he's just a generally cool guy. So he is essentially the super beat stick of the Dark Angels, ignoring the Primarch, of course. So Causewayne's one of the characters, the few, that can actually stand up to someone like Sigismund on the tabletop. However, he will lose to Sigismund. And that's because Sigismund has Eternal Warrior. He's, I think, the only model so far outside of the Primarchs that has Eternal Warrior. So, yeah. And because of that, you're only chipping wounds off him, whereas he's just instant killing you. And that's why people lose to Sigismund. But if you take Causewayne on his own, I don't think he would lose the majority of his fights. If you put him up against Sevatar or Khan, Eidolon, Lucius, he would pretty confidently beat all of those characters. Maybe Eidolon on the charge would get him. But yeah, he is really, really good. Weapon skill 7 character who also benefits from wielding a sword weapon, so he kind of counts as weapon skill 7.5. Essentially, he's going to hit almost everything in the game on 2s in close combat. He's also going to get an advantage against equal weapon skill because of the mastery of the blade, so the 7.5 weapon skill thing. That's really good. And good luck hitting him. You're going to need, 6s to hit him with some units. Anything weapon skill 3 will be 6s to hit. I think 5s to hit for everything up to a Praetor will even be 5s to hit him. What a special characters will be 5s to hit him. And that's why he'll win so many challenges. He's going to absolutely murder things in close combat. And he also has a very good weapon. Okay, the blade, his sword, murderous strike on any wound that's on a 4+. And he's, I believe, strength 6 and AP 1. So, yeah, he can actually kill dreadnoughts. He can kill infantry very, very quickly and efficiently. He is expensive in points, though, so something to think about. Don't forget either, in challenges, Duelist Edge. So his initiative goes up by, I think it's +2, his Duelist Edge. So that's initiative 7. Very, very strong. Very, very strong character. I really like Causewayne. Doesn't do a whole lot for your army here, but again, most special characters don't do a whole lot for the army. They provide situational bonuses. If you want something done for your army, you generally got to look for Primarchs. Speaking of which, time to get to the man on the screen, Lionel Johnson. So, pretty solid Primarch. He has all the sort of things you expect from a Primarch in terms of survivability, in terms of, you feel no pain, your weapon skill 6, he's strength 7, initiative 7, he's, I think 7 attacks as well, so all of that, very, very good. It's above average stat-wise. And he has the ability that he can essentially use different wings as he so chooses. Very handy. Very, very handy, because some of those wings provide only situational buffs, but you can choose the wing you want to use for the correct situation, which is nice. And as he takes wounds, he's going to gain more attacks throughout the game. So I think it peaks at 9 attacks, I'm going to say, but you need to lose pretty much all of your wounds for that. You're down to your last 1 or 2 wounds to max it out. And yeah, that's danger territory. That's where you got to start being protective of the Primarch and trying to it will not die some wounds back onto him. He also has this ability called Point of the Blade, which is if you're within 8 inches, just flat out declare you're charging 8 inches and don't roll for any modifiers or anything. Very, very, very good special ability. Also, if he's your ward, I think it's Crusader to the whole army, which is handy because Crusader's not actually a bad rule. Now, the choice that gets hard here is, it used to be a no-brainer, go for the Wolfblade. But the Lion Sword now is better than it used to be. It's still not the greatest of Primarch weapons. I mean, it's so built up in the background, you think it would be really good, but yeah, the Wolfblade was often why I would suggest people go to, because it used to be like a Strength 10 AP 2 weapon, and there was so much versatility to the Wolfblade. In this edition, though, they actually switched their brains on and went, oh, hang on a minute, if the Wolfblade is the same AP and a higher strength, and with more attacks, people are just going to go for that. So they've tried to make up for it by reducing the stats of the Wolfblade, and, well, the Lion Sword didn't change too much. So it's Mastercrafted, Strength User, so it's going to be Strength 7, AP 1. Now, they gave it Fleshbane and Armor Bane and Instant Death, which sounds really good, except when you give something Fleshbane, you have to use it. And there are several units or Primarchs that actually are going to benefit from you doing so, because they have things like, hey, if someone hits you with a Fleshbane weapon, it's -1 on what they would need to roll, or they even reduce it to a 6s only to wound. So you could potentially throw the Lion at someone who's, say, toughness 3, and you hit them with this sword, they will actually only get wounded by you on a 6. Again, very, very rare situational thing, but it is out there in the Horus Heresy. I think Death Guard, certain Death Guard units, maybe even Mortarion himself, I'll have to double check the rules, but has something that does reduce the effectiveness of Poison and Fleshbane. So keep that in the back of your mind. Now, Strength 7 and AP 1. With Armor Bane, he can blow up tanks. However, you are fishing for an 8, which is above average on a 2d6 dice roll, in order to get a penetrating hit on an Armor 14 vehicle. So keep that in the back of your mind if you go to do so. But the +2 damage on the vehicle damage chart does mean that AP 1 will blow them up if you roll a 5 on the vehicle damage chart. Now, I think Fleshbane also, for Automata and Dreadnoughts, I'm going to say, you also have to re-roll your successful to wound rolls, I think. And then you got the Wolfblade. So this is the other melee weapon option. And as I said, it is an option. You have to pick which one you use. So you're going to be fighting at Strength 9 with it, not Strength 10. And it's only AP 3. Now, it does have Mastercrafted, so re-roll 1 to hit roll. It's going to have Shredding. It's going to be Breaching on a 4+. So it basically functions like Strength 9 Plasma Weapon. And has Reaping Blow 2 and this weird rule called Fearsome Ruin. Now, the AP 3, I don't know. If you can get him into sort of base-to-base contact with lots of models, yeah, he can cut down a horde. And he'll cut them down a little bit faster with the Wolfblade if they're in power armor than the Lion Sword. But if they're in Terminator armor, then the Lion Sword all the way. Difference with the Lion Sword, though, is that it's not instant death. So you actually have to get through every single wound on those Terminators. The Wolfblade will instant kill them, but the Wolfblade has a 50-50 chance of just being a 2+ armor save for them. So there's a lot of different things going on here to get through. I think I would probably go for the Lion Sword in 9 out of 10 situations. Primarch fights, it's going to be the better weapon. The only thing I think the Wolfblade really would excel at is if you're fighting a player who's bought an absolute ton of tactical Marines, veteran Marines, something like that. Probably just veteran Marines, so you can just instant death them. With lots of feel no pain floating around, and you somehow, with Dark Angels, one of the best anti-horde armies, can't find a way of killing those tactical squads, then maybe the Wolfblade on the Lion. That's all I really think. Last couple of weapons he's got a pistol, the Fusel Acetinaeus, something like that. It's one of those weird like Pig Latin bullshit names. Assault 2, Strength 7, AP 3. It is a plasma weapon, it is twin linked, and it's rending 3+ and blind. So not breaching, rending, which is pretty neat. And it also is essentially a plasma repeater. That's the best way to look at it. It's just a better plasma repeater. Pretty good weapon, pretty reliable, but like most Primarch weapons, you want your Primarch in close combat. You don't want to be sitting there shooting with them. If they're shooting, then they're not killing in close combat. And you want to make sure that you're getting your assaults off because you're safe in close combat. You're protected from shooting. Yes, you can still take wounds in close combat from enemy units, but you're more likely to be absolutely brutalized if you're a Primarch in the open because everything with a gun is going to point in your direction. So close combat's where you want to be, protected from firepower. And firing their weapons generally is working against that ideal. The only exception to this would be like on was it Ferris Breadwas? It was Holguin earlier. On a character like that who has a pistol weapon or a shooting weapon of their choice, what you're going to use it on, then you want to be trying to pick something that's out of the box, and killing a tank is probably the best choice. So that would be where I would gravitate towards or lean towards, versus a weapon like this, which, yep, cool, it's going to kill 2 Terminators probably, or a couple of Marines very easily, but that could be the difference between you successfully getting into close combat and you sitting there for the other person's shooting phase. And, I mean, if you go shooting them, you're also giving them a chance to react to you. And you don't want someone reacting to you because you shot their tactical squad and they return fire at you with their 10-man las cannon squad, because that's going to end the Lion's Day very fucking quickly. He also has stasis grenades. Don't really need to talk about those because they suck. And the armor that he has is pretty much identical to before. 2+, 4+ reroll. Reroll, I think it's one rerollable save per turn. So it's okay. I think all Primarch armor should be in that 2+, 4+ area, except for the sort of Forge Lord Primarchs, that being Vulcan, Ferris, and Perturabo. I don't like Horus being the 2+, 3+ sort of armor either. It's just, you can have the best in the universe armor, but come on. Too many things going one way. Anyway, Lionel Johnson, very solid Primarch, definitely in the upper thresholds of Primarchs, and actually, I think would stand a pretty solid chance in Primarch dueling, but as most people should understand, when Primarchs fight other Primarchs, it drags out all game, and whilst it's thematic for the first turn or two of close combat, oh wow, our Primarchs are fighting to the death in the middle of the table, it actually just means rolling like 6-7 dice each per turn and getting like 1 wound through, 2 wounds through. Oh, you feel no pain to that, I got no damage done, and it just drags out for like 5 turns. It's not very fun. But, different people have different opinions on it. Anyway, that's it for this episode of Getting Started in the Horus Heresy. Next time out, we're going to be looking at... White Scars. We're actually going to do the Loyalists in order this time. So, part 1, we went Legions in order. Part 2, we went Legions in reverse order. Well, for part 3, we're going to go Loyalists first, and then we're going to circle back and do Traitors second. So, White Scars are next up, and then Space Wolves, Imperial Fists, Blood Angels, Iron Hands, Ultramarines, Salamanders, and Raven Guard. So, that's the order. Anyway, back at the outer circle, thank you all for watching this episode, and catch you all on the next one.